Nancy Pelosi calling the House back to D.C. to address the, quote, Postal Service crisis while slamming President Trump.
But as our next guest points out, the USPS troubles began long before the president, such as facing a $78 billion in losses since 2007, dating all the way to 2019.
So here to weigh in, we got Fox News contributor, former House Oversight Committee chairman, and author of a brand new book that comes out tomorrow. Doesn't hurt to ask, Trey Gowdy. Trey, good morning to you.
Hey, how are y'all?
We're doing okay. Let's ask you about the post office. For years, as more and more people use email and things like that, the demand has been reduced. The president put in a guide to try to streamline the post office. That's what he's been trying to do. And now the Democrats are going, wait a minute. He's trying to screw up our elections. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, the post office has been troubled financially for a long time. We actually had a reform bill that, shockingly, Jason Chaffetz authored and shepherded through the committee. It just never got a floor vote. Post office has always had problems, whether it's a business model, whether it's pre-funding retirement. They just like to blame Trump for an entity that was financially strapped a decade ago.
So, I don't know if I'm sure you saw last Friday the Durham investigation and the news that broke there. First guilty plea, and do you think the networks covered it? CNN, 0 seconds. CNN Tonight. Rachel Maddow shows 0 seconds. NBC Nightly News, 0 seconds. CBS Evening News, 22 seconds. And ABC World News Tonight, 26 seconds. Why didn't they cover it?
Yeah, Ansley, I'm going to save them some time. I'm going to write the headline for them. More FBI employees have been indicted than Trump family members. In the Russia probe, more FBI employees have been indicted than Trump family members. That's why they didn't cover it. Comey and the Democrats and the D.C. media belittled us for looking into FISA abuse. They belittled us, and lo and behold, Michael Horowitz finds 24 instances of misconduct, and now we have an indictment and a supposed guilty plea. So that's why they didn't cover it. It doesn't fit their narrative.
And Trey, just to outline what happened, this FBI worker decides he gets an email from an inquiry. They wanted to find out if Carter Page had anything to do with the CIA, because that would pretty much stop the inquiry or the FISA application for Carter Page. If you are helping the CIA, you probably shouldn't be the subject of surveillance, correct? Well, the problem is the CIA answered, and they said, yeah, he is. So the other issue is this FBI guy changes that response, and that ends up going as part of a package to the FISA judge, who said, okay, you could keep looking after him. He said, I still don't think I'm being deceptive, but I regret this happened. What's he talking about? And do you sense, as an investigator, he's talking about who told him to do that?
I hope so. I mean, Lindsey Graham is going to find out. I don't think anyone believes that Kleinsmith came up with this on his own. But, Brian, you put your finger on it. You can't have it both ways. Is Carter Page a Russian asset, or was he a U.S. asset? And if you're a U.S. asset, don't you think you ought to tell the court that? Not only did they not tell the court, they intentionally misrepresented the truth to the court. That's one of 24 instances Horowitz found of FBI misconduct. So if you like investigating police misconduct, and God knows the Democrats have liked it for the last 6 months, if you want to talk about police misconduct, how about start with the FBI, which is the one entity you actually have jurisdiction over?
Sure. Trey, here's why perhaps the other networks didn't have any coverage of it, and that is this occurred during the Obama administration. These were Obama administration officials. And when the President of the United States says he was the target of the biggest political dirty trick in history, is he right?
It's one of them. Whenever you try to, first of all, stop. Remember, Peter Strzok promised to stop it, and then they had an insurance policy in the unlikely event that he won. I mean, President Trump is right. There has been a cloud cast over his first term as president, and that cloud was manufactured by the Department of Justice and the FBI. So if you want a justice system that we can all have confidence in, and that's why people are setting cities on fire, then how about start with the FBI?
Trey, we want to talk about your new book. It's called Doesn't Hurt to Ask, Using the Power of Questions to Communicate, Connect, and Persuade. It is out tomorrow. Books drop on Tuesday. Why'd you write this, and what's it about?
It's about persuasion, Ansley. I mean, I think people want to be heard. They want to be understood. They want to move others perhaps closer to their way of thinking. So it is not a book about what I believe. It is a book to empower you on how to communicate effectively what you believe, and in particular, how to use questions. You know, I was in a courtroom for 2 decades. I was mediocre in Congress, but I was okay in a courtroom. And if you meet my wife, you'll know I'm pretty persuasive in other facets of life too, and that's how I got her. It's how to persuade and how to move people closer to your way of thinking, and in particular, how to use questions to do that.
You know, one thing, there's so much video of you doing this to your advantage in that you ask questions and 6 months later they become a storyline. You know the answer, but rather than accuse, you have that person basically confess.
Well, thank you. That very gracious of you, but y'all ask questions for a living too. And part of it is to elicit information, but part of it also is to move. I mean, you want to persuade, you want to effectively communicate your point.
Yep.
And lots of people do it by saying, I think, I believe.
Yep.
I'm trying to teach you how to do it by asking questions.
I read the book over the weekend. It is terrific. Congratulations. And you talk at the beginning about your job as a lawyer and how at peace you were when you were in front of a jury. But give the folks who are watching right now just a taste of what you're talking about, because part one is about what you need to know before you open your mouth. Give the folks at home a little advice.
Yeah, I mean, you got to know the facts. You got to know your jury. You got to know your purpose. I am stunned by the number of people who want to persuade and want to communicate, but they don't know with particularity what their purpose is. So know both sides of the argument. If you want to be an effective advocate, you have to know what you believe, but also anticipate what the other arguments are going to be. Know the facts, know the jury, know your objective, and know the burden of proof. How heavy of a lift? Are you trying to get somebody to switch religions or loan you $5? Because that's a different level of persuasion.
Both.
Got that right. All right. Thank you so much, Trey. Congratulations.
Thank you all.
You're welcome.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you all.